Hi everyone, hope you liked the tutorial part 1 and are ready to continue for part 2 with me your blend exported vehicle. Today I am going to work with Unreal Engine, specifically Unreal Engine 5 and set up our vehicle for Chaos vehicle. If you haven't watched our other videos, you can go to Skulls and Wheels YouTube channel which you are in and check out our development diary episode 1 and tutorial 1, that is preparing Dustbowler. Okay, Dustbowler is the name of our car, and we prepared our 3D vehicle to be ready to be exported for Unreal Engine 5 Chaos vehicle system. So now we are in part 2. Let's get back to Unreal Engine. Let's have a moment before going for Unreal Engine 5, and this is the model that we have prepared for Unreal Engine 5 Chaos Vehicle System, and this is the exported file. We have a prefix of SKM which represents skeletal mesh, and the vehicle name is Dustbowl and version 0.1, just in case if we have any changes for the vehicle preparation. So in step 1, we have to set up vehicle skeletal mesh in Blender, which we did in our tutorial 1. So vehicle should be pointed down on X forward, joints should be aligned with X forward and Z up. So wheels should be roll on Y axis and steer on Z axis. Wheel joints should be aligned on Y forward, which is Y plus axis. Both root, bone and armature should have same name. We don't have any issues with that, and blender scene should be set to centimeters. So we did this all subtasks in step 1. So we are going to step 2 for Unreal Engine. So this is the exported file. So we are going to import this into Unreal Engine and set up for Chaos Vehicle. So this is the Unreal Engine 5 project browser. So you have different buttons here. So this is the recent projects, and there are 4 categories. If you go to recent projects, you can see that projects you have been working on, and you can just double click and open them up. And in here we have 4 categories: games, film, video and live events, architecture, automotive, product design and manufacturing. So if we go to games category, which we are going to do a game, and you can see there is these templates. There are this let me count, 1 2 3 4 5 7 templates. First one is blank, a clean empty project with no code. This is first person template, third person template. If you are making a third person template, if you are going to make a third person game, you can use third person. If you are going to make a first person game, you can use first person. And there are top down, vehicle, handheld, AR, virtual reality. In Unreal Engine 4 you have this vehicle template and advanced vehicle template, and in Unreal Engine 5 they have only this vehicle template. We need this vehicle template, but we are going for a blank project at first. So I select this blank project, and in project defaults I'm going to use blueprint system, which is the visual scripting system, and the target platform is desktop. Quality preset is maximum, and I don't want ray tracing now, and I don't want any starter content. I want to be my project clean, so I am going to untick the starter content, and this is the project location. I don't want to change that, and I'm going to give a project name. So I'm going to give Skulls and Wheels, let's say V1. Okay, Skulls and Wheels V1, right, version 1.0. Okay, you can't have this dot thing. Okay, we will stick to V1, and then let's create. And then when you click create, you can see the Unreal Engine editor, or the Unreal editor gets loaded. Right. So I'm still working with Unreal Engine 5.0, and 5.1 has released, so I'm going to migrate this for 5.1 later on when I downloaded the new version. So this is how you can see our Unreal Engine 5 editor. And if we have a brief, this is place actors, this is outliner, which is renamed from world outliner to outliner, and there is this details panels, world partition system, and there is this content drawer. Okay, so if you are going to content drawer, they also renamed it from content browser to content drawer in Unreal Engine 5, and you can just open it up by control space, right, like that. You can press control space to expand it and collapse by control space. So this is much easier in Unreal Engine 5 than using content browser in Unreal Engine 4 versions. And we have this place actors. We don't use this place actors window for now. So I'm going to close this tab, and then I'm going to work with the content browser or the content drawer. So I'm going to control space and dock in layout. I'm going to click this dock in layout so it sticks to our viewport, and you get this content browser now. So if you dock this, you get content browser, your traditional content browser. So for the first step, we are going to enable our Chaos Vehicle plugin because it's a plugin. So if you open up the Unreal Engine 5 editor, you don't have Chaos Vehicle enabled. So you are going to manually enable it. We have to go to edit, and there is this editor preferences, project settings, and plugins at last. So you are going to these plugins and you can search chaos, and then you can see there is this versions of Chaos Physics. So Chaos Physics is a lightweight physics simulation system built for next generation by Epic Games for Unreal Engine 4 and Unreal Engine 5. uh, Unreal Engine 4 had this legacy system before Chaos Physics, and if you have used legacy system in Unreal Engine 5, Chaos Physics replaces it with significant improvement. So that is why we are going to use Chaos Physics. In Chaos Physics systems, you have Chaos Cloth Editor, Chaos Niagara, Chaos Solver, Chaos Caching, and Chaos Editor, and for the last, Chaos Vehicle plugin. So you can see it is unticked in default, and this on version 1. So you can tick and you get this message: plugin Chaos Vehicles is a beta version. Epic recommends using caution when shipping projects and with beta plugins. Beta plugins support backwards compatible for assets and APIs, but performance stability, blah 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 blah. And they have used this caution message. And they ask, are you sure you want to enable this plugin? Yes, I am going to enable this plugin. So and then they show you must restart Unreal Engine editor for your changes to effects. So I am going to restart now. Then they have this Chaos Vehicle features now with Unreal Engine editor when we restart it. So the first step is done. So we are going to close this tab. The second step, we are going to enable async physics stick. So you will see why we need async physics stick. Chaos provides more reliable simulation results, but this system supports async physics in Unreal Engine 5, and this allows more predictable results every time, and it significantly improves the predictable results in chaos. That's why we use this tick. So to do to enable this physics tick, you are going to edit and go to project settings, and you can search for physics physics tick. Yes, and you can see tick physics async. Now we are going to enable it and close this project settings. Now we are ready to work with, and I'm going to save all. I'm going to save all in here. Right. Then we are going to step 3, which is we are going to import our Dustbowler skeletal mesh. Before going to get our FBX file, I am going to create some folders. So you can select the content folder and we are going to create our all folders in this content folder. I'm going to create a new folder by right clicking in this area, right click, new folder, and you can also select the folder and we have this add button here. You can click on it and call new folder. This is also can be done. I'm going to just right click, create new folder, meshes, and go inside the meshes folder, create another one. Now we have a folder called vehicles. Inside the vehicle, inside the meshes folder, you can see we have this folders hierarchy in here. Content folder, meshes folder. Inside that we have vehicles, and you can expand this and collapse like this. Now we have our vehicles folder. I'm going to create another folder called Dust Bowler, and now I'm going to create another folder inside Dust Bowler, which is called as materials. And then we have this Dust Bowler skeletal mesh FBX file. I'm going to just drag and drop into here, and you get this FBX import options. And now I'm going to tick this skeletal mesh option because it's a skeletal mesh. You can see the prefix of our file, and we don't have any skeleton, so we are going to leave this field empty, and I'm going to select import. And it takes a while, and we get this message log. I'm going to read it and could not find the bind force. It will use the time 0 to bind force. Okay, it's just perfectly fine. I'm going to clear it and close this, and you can see there are this 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 materials. I'm going to select all these materials by shift clicking and drag and drop into this folder. Now we have these three files called as skeletal mesh, physics asset, and skeleton, and now we have these materials. Right, I'm going to save. Save selected. I'm going to materials. Yes, they are saved. Okay, I'm going to save all. Now we have this skeletal mesh, physics asset, and skeleton. So in Unreal Engine, unlike static meshes, skeletal meshes automatically creates a physics asset and a skeleton when imports. And if you have selected the skeleton when you importing, you just have this. You are just going to create skeletal mesh and a physics asset because it uses already have skeleton mesh. Now I'm going to rename this, right click, rename, or you can just click on the asset and press F2 on your keyboard. I'm going to delete this version 1 text, right, and then enter. So this is skeletal mesh, dust bowler, and I'm going to right click and rename this. I'm going to delete this physics asset part and the version part, and now it says you have this name already, so I'm going to delete this prefix and I'm going to add PA, which refers to physics asset. Now we have physics asset dust bowler, skeletal mesh dust bowler, and this is going to be our skeleton. Now I'm going to remove the latter part and I'm going to just have this SK for skeleton, right? SK for skeleton, PA for physics asset, SKM for skeletal mesh. Now we have these, and I'm going to materials. I'm going to rename those as well. Okay, first set body. I'm going to rename this as m underscore body. This represents this is a material and it's a body material. Also, I can input this dust bowl name as well. Okay, I'm going to add this dust bowl, right? And now I'm going to copy this section, right? Now I'm going to rename these wheels. I'm going to paste the prefix and then wheels, and then we have this glass material here. I'm going to rename this glass, and we have these decals. I'm going to add decals, right? And this has doors, right? We have this decals, doors, glass, and wheels body, and I don't know what are these materials. I can't just read these names. This is salon. Okay, so now I'm going to search which parts of the car has these materials. So now I'm going to this dust bowler, and I'm going to open up this skeletal mesh, and we get this tab, and I'm going to do this here, and you can see we have these materials. This is the one I can't read, so I'm going to just click on this highlight, and it shows the part of the vehicle. So it's the chassis. So I'm going to browse this. I'm going to rename it chassis, right? And then what is this? I'm going to highlight this is, yep, it has this engine parts. So I'm going to here F2 engine, right? And then we have this salon part highlight. I think it's the interior part. Yes, it's the interior. So I'm going to this use selected asset from content browser, and it directs to the content browser file that we need to get accessed. So I'm going to just click this. Sorry, not that. The browser. Okay, the browse in content browser. You are going to browse that. Rename this as interior. Right. Now we have this whole material set up. Just right. Now preparations has done. We have our physics assets, skeleton, skeletal mesh, and we have our materials. So we can later on we can import textures later on and assign those textures onto materials. So I'm going to inside this materials folder, and I'm going to create another folder called as textures, so we can just put textures of the car here. Now I'm going to check these files. I'm going to skeleton file, and you can see there's this skeleton file, and you can see that this is the skeleton, this is the skeletal mesh, and we have this skeleton hierarchy. This is the body, K caliper. So we have this root body one, and we have these parts assigned to this root body. Now you can see the rotate, move, and scale here. I'm going to select this rotate one, and you can see you can rotate the body, and you can reset the rotation. And I'm going to select the do right. I'm going to, yes, you can see that we can open our do, right? It works perfectly fine. You can navigate by pressing WSD keys, holding right click on the mouse, and you can see the left door. You can check this. It works perfectly fine. I'm going to reset this, and we have our wheels, right? I can rotate here, reset that. I can turn the wheel like this. Yes, these are working perfectly fine. And yes, skeleton is okay. Now I'm going to okay. One another thing, in this default scale, it should be 1, or it breaks the simulation. It's a requirement from the chaos vehicle system. So please just don't adjust scale in here. You just have to adjust all the scales in your 3D package, like I used in Blender, and keep this scale 1 here, or it breaks the chaos physics simulation when we have implemented chaos vehicle system. So now I'm going to close this skeleton, and also the skeletal mesh, and now I'm going to check the physics asset. So now we have this physics asset. You can see we have these capsules assigned on the wheels and the body. Now we are going to delete all these default physics assets, and we are going to recreate these physics bodies. Now I'm going to select this and just press delete. Now we just don't have any of physics bodies. Right, now we are going to add new physics bodies for all of these assets, specifically for the body and wheels. We don't need use physical bodies for doors and calipers and stuff. So we are going to add new physics bodies. To do that, we just need to see our skeleton and the skeleton hierarchy. To do that, I am going to this gear icon, and there is this option called show all bones. If I enable it, you can see there is this skeleton hierarchy, and you can see uh, we can get to see these skeleton bones. Right, now we are going to add our first physics body to our body, or the root of the vehicle. Just select the body of the vehicle and go to this tools panel. There is this body creation settings. In this body creation settings, you can select the primitive type to box, and you should untick this auto orient to bone option for the body, and you should tick this for wheels. And you can see that whether to automatically orient the created bodies to their corresponding bones. So we need that to wheels but not to the body of the vehicle. And then we have set up our primitive type, and we have unticked this, and now we just have to click on this add body. And now we have this box collision around the car body. We just need to cover our bones from this skeletal, from this physics body. But for a collision body, this is not accurate. This is not accurate. We can use complex convex volumes if needed, and yeah, for a complex one, you can see there's single convex hull. You can select and regenerate bodies, and you can see that it is much similar to the shape of the body. It almost covers every side of the body, but this costs more than a single box. But since we are making a racing game and our vehicle is to be a main part of the game, it's like the player controller that we are going to control. So when colliding, if player feels like our car is like a box, when colliding with other vehicles and other environment assets, that's not going to be a good experience. So we need to have a complex collision for this vehicle, unlike for other assets. And we can use multi-convex hull as well. And if you get to regenerate bodies, yes, you can see that we have this collision like that, right? So for just now, I'm going to choose single convex hull and regenerate bodies. Let's keep this for now, right? Now we have a physics body for our body mesh, and then I'm going to select my wheels, and I'm going to tool panel here, and I'm going to select spheres, and I'm going to take auto orient to bone in here, and then add bodies. And you can see that now we have our physics bodies for wheels as well. Now you can see these wheel physics bodies will never have any actual collisions in the game. So therefore, I am going to select all the physics bodies and go to the details panel, and I am going to search collision and disable the collision response. We just need these for the simulation of the chaos physics. Wheels never actually use these bodies since chaos physics uses ray casting method to interact with the world instead of these physics bodies. And then there's this physics type. There's this physics type option. We are going to change this to kinematic. With this option, all wheels affect the bounce and shadow sculling occur correctly. So you should change the physics type to kinematic for wheels if you are going with chaos vehicles. Now our physics asset preparations are done. We have this physics body for our body, and also we have this kinematic physics bodies for our wheels, and we don't have any collision response for wheel bodies. Now that's the summary of the physics asset creation for chaos vehicle preparation. Now we can save this and close this tab. Right. Now we have our skeletal mesh and physics asset ready for the blueprint. So now I'm going to our content folder. I'm going to collapse this meshes folder, and I'm going to create another new folder called as blueprint or blueprints. Right. In blueprints, I'm going to create another folder called as vehicles, same as in the meshes folder, and I'm going to create another folder, dust bowler, right? And then I'm going to create a blueprint. So to create a blueprint, I'm going to right click and select blueprint class, and there's this section called all classes. I'm going to expand this and search for wheeled. You can see that wheeled vehicle pawn. So we are going to use this wheeled vehicle pawn from the chaos physics system. If you don't enable chaos vehicle plugin, you don't see this wheeled vehicle pawn in this blueprint classes. So I'm going to select this wheeled vehicle pawn and select. So it is the parent class for our blueprint, and since this is the vehicle wheel vehicle pawn class, I am going to set this prefix as wheeled vehicle pawn, that means WVP, and then dust bowler. Right. So this is the vehicle blueprint for our dust bowler mesh. So I'm going to save this, save selected. Now the star mark's gone. I'm going to open up this one and I'm going to dock this, right? So this is our blueprint interface. You can see that there is this default vehicle movement component and mesh or the vehicle mesh part. So we have to add our mesh to this mesh part and wheel and vehicle movement component gives us all the properties from the chaos vehicle physics. So you can see there's this parent class wheel vehicle pawn. Right. Now I'm going to select this mesh part and you can see there is this details panel and this details panel is context sensitive. That means if you select this vehicle movements component, you can see the settings related to this movement component, and if you select this mesh component, there is this settings for mesh component. And for the mesh part, for the skeletal mesh, I am going to select our skeletal mesh of Dustbowler, and you can see now our Dustbowler is here in the viewport. Right. Now this is our skeletal mesh. Now to move this vehicle, we have to set up our vehicles. So chaos vehicle setup don't know what are the wheels and what to do with wheels. So we need to go to the vehicle movement component and there is this setting called wheel setup. And in wheel setup category, we have this wheel setups and zero array elements. So at the moment, chaos vehicle system doesn't see any wheels. So now we are going to add 4 wheels. So you can see that this is why chaos vehicle system supports multiple wheel vehicles such as trailers, trucks and stuff, because you can add these number of wheels in here. Right. In this first index, if you expand this, you can see that there's this wheel class and there's this bond name and additional offset. For the wheel class, we need to create one. So I'm going to add this create new blueprint, and then it asks where to save the new blueprint. So now I'm going to expand this blueprints part, vehicles, Dustbowler, and select Dustbowler folder, and I'm going to rename this as Dustbowler front wheels. Right. And then save. And you can see that we get another blueprint called as Dustbowler front wheels, and the parent class is chaos vehicle wheel. You can see that the parent class for the vehicle is wheeled vehicle pawn, and for the wheel they have this parent class called chaos wheeled vehicle. Right, chaos vehicle wheel. For this one, I'm going to rename this and add the prefix of chaos vehicle wheel, that means CVW, and that means our wheel. And you can see this is a empty event graph. Once you close this and open up the blueprint, you will see this kind of interface to only edit the parameters that they have given. There is this bunch of properties that we can adjust for front wheels. For in axle type, you should use front, and then there is this friction force multiplier. I'm going to use this as 3 for now. We just have to have a higher friction force multiplier to have a good grip for the car. If not, car's lights and trying to be out of control. And then there's this option called affected by steering. So our front wheels should be affected by steering. So I'm going to tick this, and you can control the maximum steering angle. I'm just going to stick with the 50. And then there are these properties called as wheel radius and wheel width. So we have to measure what are the wheel radius and width for our mesh component. To do that, I'm just going to compile this, and I'm going to open, no, I just have to drag and drop this to the viewport, right? And then I'm going to get more room for the viewport, and then you can go to this perspective option, and there are these different orthographic views. I am going to top view, and I'm going to look at my car, and you can see that this is the wireframe for my car. Unreal has this measuring tool. You can just click and hold middle mouse button and drag to measure. You can see that, right? And you can see that we only can measure with minimum 10 units. To remove this, I am going to disable this snap, and you can see we can measure like this. So for front wheels, you can have this 66, about 66. You have a diameter of 66, and then the radius will be 33. And if we measure the width, it's about, yeah, it's about also 31, right? Therefore, I'm going to this wheel radius. Wheel radius will be 33, and wheel width will be 31. So these are the values for front wheels. So I'm going to compile. Now we have our axle type. We don't want any offset here. We have a wheel radius, wheel width, and don't worry about cornering stiffness. And we just have our 3.0 friction force multiplier, and don't think about this. We don't know. Usually a handbrake works on rear wheels, so we just don't need this stick, and it is not affected by engine. So depending on your vehicle, if it's front wheel or rear wheel or all wheel drive vehicle, you can tick this affected by engine option, and this is ABS enabled, right? And traction control enabled, right? We don't need other options for now. We just use affected by steering, affected by brake, friction force multiplier, radius, width, and stuff, right? And then I'm going to close this, and now we have this CVV front vehicles in here, and for the second one I'm going to use the same. And for rear wheels we need to use another blueprint, but I'll show you another method to create this CVV blueprint for wheels. I'm going to content browser, right click, new blueprint class, and I'm going to search for KS, and then there is this chaos vehicle wheel. Now I'm going to manually pick the parent class and then select, And now we can rename this, sorry, CVW Dustbowler rear wheels. Right. And then I'm going to select these rear wheels to index 2 and index 3. That means our rear wheels. For rear wheel settings, I'm going to double click and open, and I'm going to close it and again open. Now we have this view, and I'm going to select the axle type to rear. We don't not use any offset. And for the measurements, I'm going to rear wheels. Our rear wheels are a bit large, so you can see that it's about 70 or 69. Let's have a 35. Yeah, 68. Yes. Let's have 35 radius, and the width should be about 33. Right. Width should be 33. Radius will be 35. For friction force multiplier, I'm going to use 3. Affected by brake, affected by handbrake, yes, affected by engine. Let's assume our car is a rear car, rear wheel engine, or the rear wheel drive. And then you can use ABS enable, and you should untick this affected by steering, because rear wheel should not affected by steering. And then compile this, and you can save this. And when you are going to save, it asks to save the level as well. I'm just going to cancel it, and I'm going to save this blueprint. Right. Now we have our wheels. Now we need to add this board name for wheels. For that, I'm going to the mesh. I'm going to track the location of the skeletal mesh. I'm going to skeleton, and there is this wheel names. This is front left, this is front right. So I'm going to just right click and copy selected bone names. I'm going to here, and I'm going to paste this and enter. And for the second one, I'm going to copy selected bone's name, paste. And for the rear wheels, I'm going to copy this one and paste, so I can ensure the name is correct. Right. Now our wheels are set up. Now we just have to set up the engine. If not, vehicle doesn't have any power to move. So I'm going to use this torque curve, and if you expand this, you have this external curve option. So now we are going to create a curve and give some properties to our vehicle engine, and then chaos detects how to perform when vehicle is trying to control by the player. Right. To create the torque curve, click on this create external curve, and it gets choose location for external curve asset window. So I select blueprint dustbowler. Yes, this location is fine, and I can rename it to FC. That refers to float curve. FC means float curve, and the name of the curve is torque curve. Save, and then we get this float curve of our torque curve. I'm going to double click on this, and then we get this FC torque curve file, and you can see that there's this grid. So I'm going to create 4 points. To create a point, you can click on this line. I click randomly 4 points and select first point. You can see there is this coordinate. My torque curve points will be, first one will be 0 and 0.5. Second point will be 1000 for 1, and third point will be 4000 and zero point 0.8. Last point will be 5000 for zero point 0.5. To see the curve, you can just click on or press on F key on the keyboard, and you will see this kind of torque curve. And this will be the 0 RPM 0.5, 1000 RPM at 1, 4000 RPM at 0.8, 5000 RPM at 0.5. So I will later explain what is this torque curve and what is the 0.5, what is the RPM, and how it affects for the game and how it affects for the car, like that. So this will be the peak point and this will be the maximum RPM. So maximum RPM will be 5000. So I'm going to save the curve, close this up, close the skeleton, and for the max RPM I'm going to type 5000. Right, that should work for now. Right, now I'm going to test out our car. Before testing, you need to go to mesh component and search for simulate physics. You should tick this simulate physics, if not the car will not work. Now we have ticked simulate physics, and then if you select this main car, there will be auto process player section. I am going to use this player 0. Then we will have the control of the car. And if I go to our viewport and go to perspective view and click on play, now you can see our car is here, but the camera is not in the place that we want. So let's quickly set up a camera. I'm going to stop the simulation, go to the vehicle blueprint, and now we are going to add the camera. Before adding a camera, you need a component called spring arm, which acts like a camera boom. If you know, it's like an arm for the camera. So I'm going to select the mesh component, add, search for spring arm, and you have this spring arm component. This is the spring arm, and when selected the spring arm, I search for camera and I select this camera, and you will see that the camera should be a child for the spring arm. Spring arm will be the parent for the camera. For the spring arm, you can see that there's this spring arm location. If you can see that spring arm is the red line that you see here, and camera is attached to the end of the spring arm. You can move this spring arm location like this. Yes, you can set the height of the spring arm end, but don't adjust the X component of the location. We can keep it 0 and adjust the target arm length. When you adjust the target arm length, you will see that if you go for 500, the camera goes back from 200 centimeters. Like that, we can define the length between the spring arm ends. So I'm going to stick with 500, and then there's this category called lag in properties of spring arm. Select this camera lag and rotation lag. Camera rotation lag speed. Let's put 2 as the rotation camera lag speed, and let's just keep 10 for now for here camera lag speed, and then compile, save, and if you go now, this will be the camera preview. Now if you press on play, you will see this is how we see the car. You can click on the viewport and press F11 in your keyboard to see this in full screen, and this is how camera looks like. I'm going to click escape and go for spring arm, get the rotation tool. Right, let's just -5. Let's give a small rotation for the spring arm, and let's see. Yeah, let's go for -3. Compile. Yeah, that should work well. Right. Now, if we play and press WSD, the car will not move. That is because we haven't defined our keys in this project. To define keys, you can go to Edit, Project Settings, and you can see there is this Input section. Go for Input, and there are these action mappings and axis mappings. In binding section, we need some action mappings and axis mappings as well. Action mappings kind of like digital, and axis mapping is kind of like analog. Action mapping keys are just actions. If you want to jump, if you want um, if you want to hit, those are kind of like actions. So if you click on these keys, you press, the action happens. When we press keys from the axis mappings, they have this analog value. If you keep pressing W key for a racing game, the car gets accelerated. You just don't press W key once and then car goes itself. It's not an action, so it's an axis mapping. I think you get the idea. Therefore, I'm going to add axis mapping, and you will see there is this arrowhead. I'm going to create 3. First one will be throttle or the acceleration, right? You can select the keyboard icon and press W, and you will see the keys assigned. And then the second one will be brake. Key for the brake will be S, but we also need the reverse from the S key. To do that, I'm going to add another one here. To add another one, I'm going to click plus again, press S, and then set the scale to -1. That means if you press W, it throttles forward. If you press S, it throttles backwards. That means the reverse. Also, you can brake with S key. That's the logic here. And then move right. This is for turning off the vehicle. To move right, select D key. That will be the scale of 1. But also you need to turn left as well. We are not going to assign a different axis mapping for move left. We just going to add another one under move right, set key A and set the -1 value for A key. Now it turns left when press A. We don't need any action mappings for now. We just want to control our car and test it out. We will go through these camera settings, input settings later on and adjust this and explain this more further. So after set up these three, I'm going to build a vehicle blueprint and then go to the event graph. In the event graph, we are going to set up our key bindings. Just delete all these in the blueprint, right click, search for throttle. You can see that there's this set throttle input from the vehicle movement component. And if you select that, you can see that this is the component for throttle input from the chaos vehicle system. We should get this okay, it should be throttle. Right click, we get this axis event of throttle. Now if you press W or S, you get the axis value and set for the throttle value from the chaos vehicle, and you should execute like this. And then move right, get the axis event, and from the vehicle movement component, get that move we have this steering, set steering input, connect these values, right, and to set up brake, there's this brake axis event, set brake input from vehicle movement component. There's this handbrake and brake. We are going to have this brake one. I'm just going to delete this vehicle movement component and get reference from this, execute, assign the value for this. Now it should move the vehicle from WSD keys, right? If you press W, okay, the vehicle goes. A for turn left, right. If you want to brake, it brakes and goes to back. Now it gets our inputs and you can see that vehicle is moving. Now if you say that our vehicle wheels are not working, that is because wheel rotation will be handled by the animation blueprint. Now let's just quickly set up our animation blueprint for wheels. I'm just going to vehicle blueprint, and there is this mesh option, and there is this use animation blueprint and animation class. To assign an animation class here, select the skeleton, right click, create an animation blueprint. We are making this animation blueprint through this skeleton asset. Short name for animation blueprint is ABP, so we use ABP for the prefix. Dust bowler, right? We have this animation blueprint. Double click and open it up, and now we are going to right click and search for mesh ref, mesh space ref pose, and then there's this expand toolbar, there's this class defaults, and we are going to class settings. Yes, there's this parent class as anim instance, but we are going to have a parent class from the chaos vehicle system. So select chaos, think it's vehicle animation instance, and now it has the correct parent class for setup wheels, and then you should have wheel controller for wheel vehicle. We get this and just connect this with result, and it will automatically gets this component to local. Now wheel should work. Go to the blueprint, get the anim class ABP Dustbowler. Now the animation class is set for the blueprint. Save. If you play, you can see that wheels are now working. Right. The basic setup of the vehicle is now ready. Now we can drive our vehicle. There are a few issues. Now we are going to solve these issues step by step from the next video onwards. Before going to adjust the vehicle settings, we will need some advanced vehicle engineering stuff to understand what is the torque curve, how we can set up handling, what are the steering effects, and those kind of stuff. So before going to those, I'm going to make a game mode, time trial game mode, and then test the game mode with available car asset for the car vehicle blueprint. Right. Now it's really cool. It's basically simple procedure. If you are new, you will be feel that okay, there are a lot of things to do, but if you come to sense and practice it, you will see that there is no complex settings to adjust it. up to this stage. Right. Now I'm going to stop the simulation and going to our materials, textures. Now I'm going to bring textures here. Here we have the textures. I'm going to select all textures, just drag and drop, right? Let's save. Um, Now we have to save our level. I actually don't want this level. Um, yeah, but let's just save it for now. In the content folder, I'm going to right click and create a new folder called maps and go inside and rename it at default map. Save it. Then I'm going to categorize these. We have these materials for body, chassis, decals, doors. So I'm going to create a folder, body, create a folder for chassis, different folders for these different materials. Now I'm going to select all folders except textures folder and drag and drop these folders into textures folder. Go into it. These are the body textures. Drag and drop body textures here. Those are perfectly categorized into folders, and now I'm going to rename stuff. Rename. This is a texture, so prefix is T underscore. It's for dust bowler and it's for body and its base color or albedo. So I'm going to use the suffix as A. Right. I'm going to copy the first part until the body. Right. This will be AO map, ambient occlusion. This will be metallic. This will be normal roughness and metallic. There are two metallics. No, this is just the normal map. Sorry. And this will be the roughness. This will be the normal. So I'm going to rename it and keep this as N. Right. Normal roughness metallic AO. Right. I'm going to do the same for others. Like that. Now we have all the textures set up. Now I'm going to set the body material. Click Control Space. We have these meshes, vehicles, dust bowl, material, textures and body materials. Select all, drag and drop delete this one. So this will be the albedo or the base. This will be the ambient occlusion. It goes here. This will be the normal. Normal goes here, right? And this will be the roughness, and this will be the metallic, right? That's how those maps goes. And now let's see our dust bowl. You can see it already have these textures, and it looks really cool. It looks really cool, but it has some shiny glossy look as well. Mm, but the textures are really cool, and look at the interior. Cool. It has some displays. Cool. Right. Now I have a cool looking car, and now I can close this content browser and play a bit. Right, this is our dashboard. Now it works. You can see that it has some glitches on the wheels. You can see that. But we have a drivable vehicle for now for a racing game. Cool. Now we are another step ahead after our tutorial 2. And as I said, from the next tutorial I am going to create a time trial game mode and test with this controller we have right now, and then we are going to adjust our vehicle settings later on with the time trial game mode. So we will have some launch controls, we will have some torque curve and engine adjustments. We will have many things to do. So for set up chaos vehicles correct, we will need some real physical vehicle reference, and we will be using a Mustang 69 Mustang for this car, because this concept is already came from a Mustang car. It's a modified Mustang, so we will be going to have a Ford Mustang specifications to create this car control. So that's all for the second tutorial. I think we had about 1 hour. Now we have a blueprints folder and meshes folder. We have in blueprints our dashboard vehicle blueprint, and you can add this into collections as well. You can add a local collection. vehicles, and then go to blueprints, right click, and you will see that manage collections, vehicles. Now, if you want to add a dust bowl vehicle, you can go to simply collections and drag and drop. Right. Now, you don't need two vehicles. I'm just going to delete one. Right. So we will extract some roads and some meshes and some blueprint stuff from the vehicle, original vehicle template of the Unreal Engine. So we will be doing that also in next tutorial and start working on our game mode. So that's all, folks. I hope you had some good knowledge, and I I haven't explained all settings that we have gone through, and that's because we just have to have a basic summarized workflow, scripted work, and boom, we have our car. So for mastering the vehicle controller, for mastering the vehicle handling, for mastering the vehicle physics, along with the chaos vehicle physics, we are going to discover more things with experimentations, and you will see that setting up a new car with all the configurations, all the handling, all the engine performances is a very easy one with this Unreal Engine Chaos Vehicle Physics system. So let's meet with our third tutorial. Stay tuned. Bye for now.